Managing a remote workforce is crucial during this pandemic. And today I'm here with Dan Truehl. He just sat on a session at the Wisconsin Solo and Small Firm Conference, which is virtual this year. And he gave some great tips on what law firms and other organizations can do to successfully implement a remote workforce and how to manage the staff. Dan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Joe. Thanks for having me on.
So Dan, tell us, before the pandemic, obviously there were organizations that were managing remote workforces, but during the pandemic, we've seen a huge uptick in, law firms and businesses who are having to do that. So, what are some of the obstacles that they're dealing with in terms of successfully managing remote workers?
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail right on the head in that most people didn't expect to just be thrown into it. The people that chose to be managing a remote workforce had the opportunity to think about it, had that opportunity to plan for it, and really set expectations. And I think that's the biggest thing that bosses, leaders, managers are struggling with right now is that they had to rush to do this. This was something that was just thrown on us, and now we're trying to figure it out. And so the biggest thing that we see people struggling with is just that, the expectations. We hear people say, well, I don't know what they're doing anymore. I'm not sure what I'm paying my person to do that's working from home. Are they just watching TV, or are they actually getting the things done outside of the major responsibilities that they have? And so that all comes back to that leader, that owner, that person who is running the organization, setting clear expectations. You set clear expectations, you convey those to your individuals, to your employees, and then you're able to actually check on those. So then there has to be a follow-up sequence, whether it's, I had mentioned in my talk, bookend meetings, whether you meet on Monday to say, what do you have on your plate this week? What are the most important things that you should be accomplishing this week? And then checking in on Friday to say, how'd you do? Were you able to accomplish those things? Were there any things that came up in between that didn't allow you to get everything done? And is there anything you need help from me? So it starts with expectations, and then it comes back to having a detailed process as to how to check in on those expectations to make sure that you're not sitting there thinking, well, what is my employee doing while they're at home?
Right. And you said something during the session that I thought was interesting. You said, make sure to plug the right holes in the boat. And you were talking about the 20%, the mission critical 20% of things that you should be focusing on. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. So with this, and employees usually have a ton of things that are on their to-do list. And it's really easy to sit there and say, okay, well, why don't I start with the things that are the easiest? Problem is that those easy things that we're checking off, and it's making us feel good, feeling like we're being productive, we're being effective and efficient with our times, it's not necessarily the most important things. And so as a leader, you understand that your employees have a long to-do list. But if you can get them to focus on those big things, the 20%, as I mentioned, start there. Because if they're accomplishing those things, we call those the one thing that you should be accomplishing on a day or during the week, whatever it might be. If you're finishing those, if you're accomplishing those things, all of the other things are a little bit less important. It's not that they don't need to get done, but we're actually moving the ball forward rather than just doing all of the administrative tasks or other things that might make us feel like we're productive, but not necessarily as productive. And because I can't just go into your office, because I can't just go and say, what are you working on today? You might not have the prioritization that you're looking for. That employee might not know exactly what is the most important thing. So having those communications with them to make sure that they are moving the big rocks forward rather than just crossing off things on a to-do list that might not necessarily be doing the organization or the individual what they need to be doing.
Okay. And Dan, tell me about your organization, what you guys do specifically.
Yeah, so Lift Consulting is a small consulting firm over on the West Side, and we work with organizations that are really looking to get from where they are to something a little bit better. And we work with them in kind of a multitude of ways, whether it's through strategic planning, working specifically with the owner, the leader, whoever it might be with the organization, to make sure that we do have a plan to go forward, all the way down to then training. And most of what I do is actually training, whether it's employees, managers, or leaders, to give them the tools that they need to be successful within their role. So we do it from the big level perspective on strategic planning and strategy, making sure that they've got the right the right plan to move forward with, because sometimes it is hard when you're working in your business to be able to see the forest through the trees. And so you need an outside perspective to come in and help you say, yeah, that's the right direction, or let's figure out a better direction for you. And then all the way down to just training the things that you might need to be doing as an employee or as a leader as well.
He's Dan Truehl with Lift Consulting in Madison. Dan, thanks so much for talking with us today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.